Hi, Amanda Lieber is with me. Welcome back. We're glad you're here for this session, Soul Alignment, Nervous System, Safety Beyond Conditioning. Amanda Lieber is a medium, an intuitive, and an energy guide, and she will be joining us in this conversation. Her work helps people reconnect with their soul essence in a way that feels safe, grounded, and embodied. Through her work with energy colors, she offers a practical framework for understanding how alignment between soul and nervous system supports clarity and regulation as well as self-trust. Welcome to the summit, Amanda.
Thank you so much for having me. I am overjoyed to be here.
So, for the people who are new to your work, can you explain how you understand the connection between alignment and nervous system safety, especially when so many people are feeling pressure, urgency, or anxiety right now? You have so much uniqueness to your work.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I see alignment and nervous system balance or harmony as pretty synonymous. In order to be aligned, we actually have to be balanced or have some balance in the nervous system. And of course, you know, the nervous system, it's not just, this fixed state. It is something that does fluctuate on a level, similar to energy and alignment. We're not going to, spirit is 100% in alignment all the time, but we are all spirit, but kind of living in a body for now. And so because of that, we are going to, fluctuate in and out of alignment from fear to more higher states like love and wisdom. And so, yeah, so the more we can kind of find balance in our nervous system, the more we will just feel aligned on a soul level and vice versa.
Perfect. Before we get into your work with colors, I did want to ask you about your work with the ego and the soul. So, in your work, the ego isn't bad, so to speak. How do you help people work with that ego energy without trying to silence it or fix it while still letting the soul take the lead?
I love that question. And I think the first piece is understanding that the ego and this person that, many of us believe that we are is something that our soul or the higher part of us actively chose in order to further our own growth and evolution on a soul level. So everything, all of the quote unquote good and all of the quote unquote challenges, they are all, for our advancement. They're all for, our highest good. So there is nothing about the ego that is unwanted, actually. What's unwanted is kind of the resistance that we can create in this ego. And when we, lead with the soul, when we really kind of get into that, whether we want to call it alignment or love consciousness, or there's just so many terms for this idea of leading with the soul, the ego just kind of naturally, it doesn't fall away. Because as being, or my belief is that, just being a person, being in this physical body, we will have to have some, form of ego. But the ego just takes kind of that back seat and is still there. There's so much beauty in all of these challenges, all of this conditioning that, that we created, again, that we chose. And it really is meant to be our teacher and be with us on some level. But I think the human condition, we want to blow up those, that resistance or those challenges and make that, such a part of our existence, when in reality, it's just the soul sees it as like a teeny tiny speck.
Yeah.
We are.
I feel like that's starting to shift these days a little bit more. So I love that you actually do work that specifically addresses it and helps people like refocus that a little bit. But let's shift to your work with the energy colors. I found this like really amazing. So it's my understanding that this wasn't something that you set out to create a system of energy colors, I believe that they emerged organically through your mediumship work that you do. Can you share how the energy colors first began showing up for you and how you came to understand what they represent?
Yeah. So thank you so much for that question. And that's exactly right. This whole idea of working with color as energy was something that I almost see that it evolved over time. And it was something that I believe was kind of given to me. There was zero intention of creating a system, or it just kind of naturally evolved. And how it started out was when I was kind of evolving in my journey as a psychic medium, and I was doing readings, what's called evidential mediumship, which is when we kind of bring forth our deceased loved ones. And I noticed that, first of all, spirit often communicates in symbols. And I noticed I started receiving colors. Like I'd get either one or two colors, like just at the outset when I'd kind of meet the spirit. And, as a medium, you're trained to tell your client verbatim what you receive. And I would say, the spirit is coming through with purple. And
Interesting.
often I'd hear things like, oh, that was her favorite color or whatever it was. And just kind of over time, I started to realize that these colors had a meaning. I just started seeing a lot of, patterns based on doing many and many readings, and just noticing that certain colors were kind of aligned with certain characteristics. And just over time, I just kind of saw that this was more than just, random colors. This was really either the way that my mind was translating energy or the way spirit was helping me translate energy. I kind of like to see it that way. But I ultimately, it really resonated because, first of all, when it just kind of like the colors just appear spontaneously when I either meet a spirit
Yeah.
on the other side or a live person. And so it's not, there's kind of no thinking there. It just kind of spontaneously comes up or arises, the color. But so
So,
this so
oh,
yes, this over time evolved as a system for kind of understanding energy and different energetic patterns.
so you see it as really a symbolic language, at least for you, between you and spirit. So,
Yes.
Amanda, what's the difference with soul colors and persona colors? Can you talk more about that?
Yes. So this was something that also evolved over time. I realized that colors in the aura, or colors however they appear in the energy field, kind of fall into two categories. One is what I call, this is something that I kind of added to the system, is this idea of soul colors, which represent our deepest soul desires, like our deeper soul purpose, like really what our soul, like this is the energy of what our soul is here to do, or really to be, but just the energies that our soul wants to bring forth very strongly. And then there are these persona colors that I name them, and they are more aligned with our conditioning and our more egoic tendencies. So they're often learned behaviors. And something that I've realized over time is often those persona colors, you will kind of see them in your parents or caregivers or people that you're around. You kind of just pick them up from, you know, loved ones in your life or society in general. But it's so freeing when you can distinguish between these persona colors and soul colors, because often we'll find, or have found in my work, that the persona colors are subconsciously or unconsciously leading the way. We think we are our conditioning, and the soul just ends up being this tiny little, again, this speck there, just in the background there. Often, it can even be dormant, um, or just not as bright. And the other piece that even though the aura has these colors reflected, I think are kind of our, I don't want to call it a goal, but kind of the evolution is to actually be all the colors, like be the whole rainbow. You're not just limited by these, 4 or 5 colors that appear in your aura. But I believe, in what I've seen to be true, is that once we kind of gain this, clarity and ground into our soul colors. First of all, these persona colors just kind of, naturally align, but then we can kind of bring forward other energies. So often when I see a really evolved soul, someone who's done a lot of work, I see many colors, often the entire
That's
rainbow.
so fascinating. When someone begins to recognize the difference between their conditioned patterns and their deeper essence, what you call the persona energy and the soul energy, what tends to shift in the body or the nervous system first, do you think?
Yeah. So that, it's like that energy of that aha moment of,
Ah, I love an aha moment.
isn't it just like relief? It's an energy of, and it's that light bulb of like almost you're just also, it's this relief, but you're like kind of lighting a fire. And it just, like, the whole system kind of relaxes, because the other piece is just, as a human and being in this ego in this body, we want answers. We want to know, like, definitively, what's our purpose? Like, who am I? And of course, these are questions that are, are just not these don't have these black and white answers that we want. But I think the system of color and of just understanding, these soul energies versus the persona energies do help us gain some clarity and understanding without trying to, limit us or overly define us, because that would be impossible and that wouldn't feel good.
Yeah, there's definitely no boxes to check off, although I'm sure there's many of us who wish it was that simple, but I think that would defeat the purpose of this embodiment in this lifetime. Is there a way people can start noticing their energy color in everyday life without needing a reading? Or is it okay? Yeah, I'm open.
Absolutely. Yes. And so the first thing I want to say is, this idea of, we hear this phrase of everything we need is already inside. And it's the same with your colors and everything else. Like, you already intuitively know your colors. And I think a lot of times when people come to me, sometimes they're surprised by their soul colors because they're so used to, kind of being in these more egoic colors. But for example, Dr. Sandra, you're wearing a green jacket and you have heavy green in your field. It's just, we are often kind of drawn to the colors. Often they actually will be our favorite colors, our,
Interesting.
soul colors. Yeah. So just a very, so obviously that can feel like, oh, so I just know my soul colors. That should be easy. But of course, again, we overthink and it's hard to kind of get in that zone of, so the key is to really relax the nervous system in any way that kind of feels good. Take some deep breaths, meditate, just kind of sit in silence, really ground, feel present, and then ask. It's, whether you want to see it as asking your higher self, your spirit guides, just, the universe, just ask. And, don't even put pressure on to get more than one. Just ask for one to start. See what feels good. And you can also, like, literally try it on. See, does this resonate? Does this feel aligned? Do I like the way this feels? And it's also interesting because I find that what we want to be true, like our dreams that maybe we don't even tell people about, are often those the truest parts of ourselves. Like, if you want pink to be your color, I can almost promise you pink is there somewhere.
Yeah, I did want to ask you about the pink color actually, but so color is really important to me. And it's interesting because colors affect people differently, but this might be too much information. This particular, because I decided to tone my house down a little bit and went neutral for most of the house. And it was sort of like letting go of something that was important to me. So this room that I'm sitting in, I have my mac and cheese wall behind me, which I love. And on the right, I have a bright magenta wall. And on the left, I have a very deep royal purple wall. And in front of me, I have a deep teal wall. So, and I like come alive in this room. Like, this room gives me peace where other people might find it a little stimulating. So the whole work you do with the colors is fascinating to me. So would you be willing to briefly walk us through like the main energy colors, and are there like practices that can go with them?
Yes, I would love to. So, first of all, I love that you chose the mac and cheese wall as the wall that, we all see, because yellow, I can go in order in terms of the rainbow, but also just to let everyone know, even though there are many different colors, like teal obviously is a color, but I kind of see it as, seven basic colors, the rainbow plus pink.
Okay.
But I love that this mac and cheese color is kind of in the background. It's kind of a blend of yellow, which it has like a very, leadership type of energy, and orange, which is a
Yeah.
teacher energy. So that just,
Fascinating.
I know, just this like perfect background for you, and what you're doing now. And I'm sure what you want to, kind of those energies you want to give off. But to start kind of at the bottom, or maybe it's the top of the rainbow, with red. So red is really, kind of symbolizes, like, it's very an action oriented color. It's very physically grounded, and on a soul level, a huge part of red's purpose is to be embodied. Like, this would be the energy of just somebody who is is kind of just a very physical person, maybe is truly into physical fitness and their body, like their physique in general, but also is kind of likes to build. Like, and you might see this as like building muscle, but building businesses. Like, often when I see red, like, it's a very entrepreneurial, risk-taking energy. It's a very beautiful energy that, interestingly enough, I don't naturally have in my aura, but I have a lot of people in my life with red, because that's
Interesting.
supposed to be brought in. Um, and so, yeah, so red really, it's as I said, on a soul level, like, wants to be embodied and really actually create in this physical world of ours. But often it won't be embodied. Like, when it's not in alignment, it, can
Okay.
tend to anger or frustration or impulsivity. So any sort of practice that gets read into the body, like, for example, if we want to look at meditation, like a body scan meditation, or actually progressive muscle relaxation, is a really beautiful, um, tool for red. And so, moving up onto orange. Orange, I see as such a creative energy. It's the joy finder. It's all about adventure and this bigger vision. And so it really needs play. It really needs, to feel like this big, expansive energy. And, energy, orange is that energy of the teacher. And it's that energy of really co-creation. Like, a really good teacher is not somebody, standing on a pedestal talking down to the students. Like, he or she, they are like in the middle, and, everyone's, kind of together. So actually, at a soul level, orange is all about kind of co-creation. It again is this creativity, but, that co-creation. And actually, a very simple energetic tool for orange is dancing. Like, this would be
Ah,
put on like the oldest, most ridiculous song you can think of that you love, and just like go all out and dance. The energy of also shaking your body. Orange can definitely like get overwhelmed with emotion. So that shaking can kind of be also incredibly helpful.
okay.
And so yellow, as I had said before, is really on a soul level, is meant to shine. It is meant to kind of, it is this bit of a more masculine energy, and it's really meant to kind of lead and, be a beacon of light for others, of course.
Mhm.
And yellow kind of struggles. It is like, it's a very intellectual energy, and it can
Mhm.
struggle with overthinking and really getting in the head. And, so a very important practice for yellow, of course, is, anything, as we can say, is important. It's always important to be in the body. Any form of nervous system regulation is going to help, all the colors. But, in terms of yellow, a really, powerful practice would probably be, either, I would say, journaling,
Oh,
or, yeah, journaling. But, actually, scripting would be a really powerful practice,
oh,
which is,
that's so interesting that you say that. Okay.
So in terms of,
A conversation for another day.
yes, exactly. Conversation for another day. But scripting is basically a manifestation technique where you kind of write your day or an experience as though it's already happened.
Mhm.
So this is the most joyful day, and it just kind of gets really like builds that energy. And green, I always like when I think of the nervous system, I often think of green because green can really is such a sensitive energy. It's so heart centered and can really struggle with anxiety and perfectionism and almost like this black and white thinking. And by the way, when I see green, like immediately I know you had a strict childhood on some level. There was some sort of rigidity. But the flip side is green is really talented at kind of seeing these black and white because they're meant to be the harmonizer and the healer. Like green has the biggest talent for healing. And one practice that I love for green is EFT tapping, any sort of grounding with, just walking on the earth with your earthing with your feet is incredibly powerful. Being with animals, green, being in nature, all of that, because it reflects the truth of what you are, of who we are to
Beautiful.
us. And green, really feels the harmony.
I'm going to tell you spot on. Go ahead.
And blue, so blue is a color very close to my heart. And blue is another one that had a bit of a difficult upbringing, really kind of didn't feel seen as a child. And blue is another high sensitive and but it's more of, this is the emotional x-ray vision of the colors. Like this is that energy of depth, of intensity that not everyone is comfortable around because blue can read kind of everything. And the issue with blue is often as a child, at some point, someone denies blue or denies blue's feelings, and blue learns to kind of repress their feelings and intuition. And so really it becomes this journey, this like more deep journey into transformation. It can take kind of a little bit longer to come into alignment, but ultimately blue has this gift of self-expression like no other. And it's the poet, the singer, a lot of actors and actresses are blue, writers, speakers. It's the communicator. Actually, blue is the color of mediumship too. It's like this communicator, and it's this ability to communicate with such beauty and vulnerability through like this raw authenticity that kind of comes with feeling things so deeply. And so blue is another big need to journal anything with a voice. So actually, I love audio journaling when you just literally speak into your phone and listen to it. Yeah, and humming would be another beautiful blue nervous system balancer. Singing, any sort of singing. I actually had taken vocal lessons, and I was shocked at how much that helped my nervous system, just the using voice. And then going up to purple. Purple, when it's not aligned, can be a very isolating energy because it can kind of feel like so different and almost like an alien because it really is so in alignment with spirit. And actually, on the flip side of purple is unity. Purple is like that unifier. Purple knows that we are all spirit. We are all, we are all one. And but it can really struggle with, if it does not have a strong spiritual practice, or, no one kind of showed them the way, or just, for a while, especially as a younger one can struggle with that. So purple like absolutely needs to be connected spiritually. Meditation is huge, huge, huge for purple. And purple is probably the one energy that being in the body is always important, but it's probably less so for purple. But I would say prayer, and just like this, even if you're not, it's not a religious thing at all, but just bringing in your guides, bringing in, asking for help, like constantly communicating with spirit. And last but not least is pink, another color very near and dear to my heart. And pink is another extreme sensitive. It is really at the highest level is the energy of the divine feminine. And its gift is being, we're all receivers, but pink is like really meant to receive, surrender, trust, all of that stuff is just such a higher purpose of pink. And pink is all about unapologetically following your own heart. But on the flip side, we often see pink really will follow the leader for much of their life. They will, follow others, but also just, want to people please, just want to create the peace at all costs.
Interesting.
Yeah, and another piece is that, like I always like to say, pink doesn't just wear someone else's shoes; they can't take the shoes off. So, yeah,
That's interesting. Gosh, Amanda, I could probably talk another hour with you about this. I feel like we're truly just touching the tip of the iceberg. Um, one one last quick thought that you would like to leave for people who are just taking this in for the first time, because there's so much really powerful, meaningful information you just shared.
yeah.
What would you like to leave with people real quick?
So I think it's important to remember that energy is constant, alignment is constantly available, and actually it's really all that is the truth of who we are. We are these aligned beings. It's nothing that we need to create. It's more of just remembering and accessing and shifting our focus. So it's just, I never want somebody to think, oh, I'm not an aligned version of my blue or my yellow. It's all good. It's all part of the process of, forgetting and remembering. And isn't that part of the joy of being here, being this physical world, is having that, recognition? So there's nothing bad. There's nothing you're ever doing wrong. You are exactly where you need to be.
Beautiful. I love it. What a great way to end, and what a great message for the nervous system. Thank you, Amanda, for sharing all of this work with us. I hope we can reconnect again. For the people out there who are fascinated like I am by this whole conversation, to learn more about Amanda and her work, you can go to her website, amandaliebermedium.com. And that's Amanda, and I'm going to get this right, Amanda, Lieber, medium.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This has been such a joy.